الحضور الكريم
Distinguished assembly,
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
may Allah's peace
تعالى
and
وبركاته.
blessings be upon you all.
نرحب بكم في اليوم الثالث والأخير
We
من
would like to
اللقاء
welcome you on the
السنوي
third
لرابطة
and
العلماء
final
العرب.
day of the annual meeting of the Arab Global Scholars. It is a great pleasure to have you here with us at the conclusion of these events that brought us together under the umbrella of science and innovation. The closing ceremony will be riddled with interesting discussions, as was the case in the past 2 days.
هذا اللقاء السنوي لرابطة العلماء العرب
Days and events of this annual meeting have gone by quickly. We discussed important cases, important issues, and our discussions were incredibly rich. And now, last but not least, the great finale will be this closing panel titled The Role of Arab Intellectuals During and Post-Conflict in the Region. It will see the participation of a number of elite intellectuals. I invite them to the stage. Dr. Iyad Mas'ad will be the moderator. He's a professor at the College of Science and Engineering at Hamad bin Khalifa University. And the panelists will be Ms. Hind Al-Hannawi, Executive Director of the Humanitarian Tracker Platform, Dr. Shawqi Abdullah, President of the Lebanese American University, Dr. Karim Ahmad Saqallah, Professor of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at University of Michigan. In the name of God, most compassionate, most merciful, may Allah's peace and prayers be upon our Holy Prophet Muhammad and his entire family and all of his companions. Honorable colleagues and guests, I bid you welcome to this interesting panel that is part of the closing ceremony of the Arab Global Scholars. It is a great pleasure for me to be with you here today to discuss an issue that touches all of our hearts: the role of Arab intellectuals and scholars during and post-conflicts. This gathering and this discussion are incredibly important, seeing as they are a platform to reinforce collaboration. Throughout history, our communities have shown their ability to be able to adapt and innovate, and Arab scholars have played a pivotal role in lighting humanity's path. And through this platform and through this discussion, we will see how we can restore hope, how we can restore trust, and how we can enable individuals and communities. Future is the fruit of what we build together, and we must work together to build a prosperous future that reflects the authenticity of our scientists and scholars and our shared aspirations. At this session, it is a great pleasure for me to be with Ms. Hind Al-Hannawi, the Executive Director of Humanitarian Tracker. Ms. Al-Hannawi and her institution seek to harness the power of technology in service of community development. She has a wealth of experience working with the United Nations organization. It is also a pleasure to have Dr. Shawqi Abdullah, President of the Lebanese American University. Prior to his tenure, he was Deputy Head of Research at Georgia Tech and President of New Mexico University. It is also an honor to have with us Dr. Karim Ahmad Saqallah, Professor of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. He was one of the pioneers who contributed to the Arab Global Scholars Organization. Dr. Karim also helped lay out the strategy of the Qatar Computer Research Institute. Honorable guests, after reading a short outline of what you've accomplished and what you continue to accomplish, as well as your individual accomplishments abroad, I would like to ask you about your motivation. What was it that motivates you to participate in initiatives and seminars pertaining to development and technology in the Arab region? Beginning with you, Ms. Hind. Thank you, Dr. Iyad, and I would also like to thank Qatar Foundation for inviting me. And I would also like to congratulate you all for 3 really incredible days. My name is Hind Al-Hannawi. I am of Syrian origin and I was raised in Los Angeles. And 20 years ago, I decided to move to the Arab region and start working with the United Nations. And it was the beginning of a love story between myself and the Middle East and Arab culture, as well as Arab honor and history, and most of all, the Arab people. So I keep traveling, but I keep feeling that something is pulling me back to come back to this region to help and to support the people of the Middle East. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hind. Dr. Shawqi, Deputy Vice President of Georgia Tech, President of New Mexico University, and now you chose to go back to Lebanon, you chose to go back to the Arab region. What was it that motivated you? Thank you. First off, I would like to thank Qatar Foundation, and just like my colleague Ms. Hind said, those 3 days, the past 3 days were quite informative to me. I decided to go back to Lebanon because this has become a mission for me. I spent 45 years in the United States. I pursued my studies there. I graduated from university there. I became a professor there. And just like you heard, I was the president of New Mexico University and Executive Vice President of Research at Georgia Tech. I was very successful at my job, but at the same time, my work was very satisfying. But I still had this connection to Lebanon specifically, and this connection to the Arab region in general. I started working with universities in Arab countries such as the United Arab Emirates and other Arab countries, and there were many students who would come to me and learn with me. So I determined that I still had 5 or 10 good years in me as a professor, as a researcher, and as an academic leader, perhaps. So I thought to myself that I would like to give back during those years to the country where I learned, pursued my studies for the past 15 or for the first 15 or 17 years of my life, as well as the things that I learned within my network. How can they help me to give back to the Arab region and to Lebanon? Thank you, Doctor. We will be digging deeper into that point, how we can use the network that we have in service of the Arab region. Dr. Karim, you are a well-known professor, a very successful professor at Michigan Ann Arbor University, which is very well known, and you've had some important contributions in Qatar, particularly to the development of the scholarly sector. What is it that motivates you to keep going? Thank you, Dr. Iyad. Thank you, Dr. Iyad. As a Palestinian from Gaza, this is how I would like to start. Qatar is the only country that I chose to go back to as an Arab citizen, and the welcome I received, I did not receive in any other Arab country. This is one. Two, the invitation that I received was by sheer coincidence. The initiative was that they wanted to bring back Arab scholars, just like Indian scholars went back to India, Chinese scholars went back to China, and so on and so forth. So I thought about it, I gave it some thought, and I determined that we are not lesser than other scholars in terms of knowledge, in terms of intelligence, and I believe that we should all contribute as much as we can to that initiative. So that was the main motivation for me to welcome the initiative. So I came and I had the opportunity to meet a group of Arab scholars who came from the United States starting the year 2006, and we actually found out that the initiative was indeed very serious. And there was complete support from Qatar Foundation and Her Highness Sheikh Hamoza. And before that initiative, there were other initiatives from other countries, however, they were not successful. And therefore, I told myself, with all the support, this initiative must success and we may contribute to its success. Like I said earlier, we are not lesser than our peers, and it is very unfortunate to say that even though we have great successes abroad, some people still regard us Arabs as people who have no impact on the world. So I tried my best to do everything I can in order to ensure the success of this initiative. I spent an entire year at Carnegie Mellon University in Qatar. I'm actually a graduate of Carnegie Mellon University, and along with my colleague Ahmad Al-Muqarmad, we laid out a program that was used to establish the Computer Research Institute. I believe Ahmad had a lot more energy in him, so he stayed here and he helped establish the institute. And a couple years later, once the number of people or scientists working in the institute was up to 100, he called me to go back and I came back. So the initiative is successful, however, it needs perseverance in order for it to be sustainable. So this is a part of I wanted to discuss today. How can we ensure the long-term success of this initiative, inshallah. So I will pick up where you left off. We travel, we succeed, we accomplish a lot abroad, we create networks, we deliver scientific and scholarly accomplishments. However, how can we invest this knowledge, this experience that we gathered in our communities? And seeing as this panel focuses on the subject of conflict, we can focus on that. So how can you harness all these accomplishments that you delivered in service of the Arab nation? We can start with Ms. Hind or any of the other colleagues. According to my experience, I actually majored in diplomacy and international development, and through the work I did with the United Nations, particularly in the MENA region, I discovered that there were two things we can do immediately in order to encourage and build human capacity. And the first thing is education. Not just education, but access to education. We need to ensure, we need to guarantee that people have the opportunity to learn. And I would like to ask you all to go back to the moment where you started working. Who was mentoring you? Did you have a mentor? Did you have someone whom you could ask questions to, for example? I'm not talking about the people who were with you at school or at university. Mentorship, in my opinion, is more important. Professional mentorship? Well, yes, professional mentorship, but as time goes by, this mentor becomes someone whom you can trust other than your professional colleagues. So it's someone whom we can ask about professional issues as well as personal issues. So we can ask them, for example, I need to establish a connection with someone. Can you help me? So mentorship is very important. Education alone is not enough. If we had the education without access to any network, it makes it 10 times harder. So we can benefit from the networks we've established as part of mentorship, as part of giving a helping hand maybe, or providing opportunities. Absolutely. Just look around this room here. The people here, we are a network. And I'm sure you do mentorship in your own lives, in your own professional networks. However, as Arabs, what matters to us is the Arab region, the Arab nation. So two things. The first thing is education and access to education. And second, we are mentors. We are mentoring this coming generation, this generation who will be addressing the issues that we are currently going through. Anything to add? Yes, Ms. Hind said some very important things. She evoked some very important important issues. However, I would like to add two things. Louis Pasteur said science has no home. So, in other words, we can't say that this science belongs to a certain country. Xi Jinping from China said, but scientists have homelands. So, the people who are like us also have things that are important to them other than their science network. Me, personally, I deal with people from all over the world. I work in electrical engineering and robotics engineering. I deal with people from all over the world, but at the same time, I must think, how can I serve Lebanon or the Arab nation? Or, for example, when I was in Georgia, how can I serve Georgia and other local areas? But there are bigger issues. There are global issues such as climate change, for instance, such as water, food, natural disasters, COVID, these kinds of things. And obviously here the network comes into play. And Hind has talked about networks. And here I spoke to some people and we connected on LinkedIn, for example. So this is a network on LinkedIn. However, if we do not use this network, if we do not continue, we can't just settle for exchanging each other's contact information. If we don't pursue that effort, if we don't carry that effort forward, it's like having an electrical network, but we're not activating the generator. So this is the important question. What are the specific things, what are the specific projects for those who are interested in Qatar first, because this is where we are, but also the Gulf region, the Arab region, and the world, because all of our contributions when we were at our respective universities or in our field of research, we didn't just focus on the small things. You don't need a large network. You don't need a lot of connections to do something at your lab. You need those connections when you're working on something big. And the issues we are facing, I am talking about the major humanitarian issues. These are issues that require all of us. But if we focus, for example, on the issues that we're facing in the Arab region in particular, particularly the region where we are living. For example, in Qatar, you might not have the same problems that we have in Lebanon, but there are some commonalities. For example, how can we establish connections? And each and every one of us is a node. Every single one of us has a network. However, when I communicate with another node, when I communicate with another person, that makes me part of their network. So we are expanding our capabilities, we are promoting our capabilities, we are increasing our knowledge, and this is something we need to put into action in a specific field so that we can start strengthening the links. And once the links are strengthened, then we can start maybe exchanging students. That's when we can start teaching the future generations, and so on and so forth. Excellent point. So we are talking about clear-cut initiatives and sustainable initiatives as a result of this network that we're establishing. Maybe we can call it a network of networks. Dr. Sakalla, please. There are a number of points that I would like to address. First off, so far the initiative has been successful. So between 2006 and today, 18 years, we now have a number of research centers, we have a university with PhD programs. And in this field, Qatar has been a pioneer in the Arab world. So the objective of the initiative was to attract Arab expat scientists. That was the name of the initiative in the past, and now it's called Arab Global Scholars. So even the objective changed, and this is something that we must all be proud of. There are still a number of obstacles that I believe we should face head on. The first obstacle is that we can no longer speak Arabic, apparently. Excuse me. I apologize. I apologize. I remember going to a conference in Kuwait a while ago, and they asked me to talk about research in Arabic. I could not do that, so I was ashamed of myself. However, in our field, unfortunately, science is still done in English. And when we are talking about something scientific, it is very difficult to address it in our Arabic language. And it's very unfortunate. So maybe in a couple of years, as part of this initiative, we will discover a new field of science and we will be able to choose an Arabic name for it. In English, for example, we have algebra. So any one of us who discovers something new has the right to name it. So I think we should get to that stage one day, inshallah. So the major obstacle that I noticed throughout the phases of the initiative is actually the human element. The human element is very important. And I'm talking about the human resources. And obviously, human resources are based upon a culture, are based upon the right upbringing. They are based upon values that feed or serve this thirst we have for knowledge and for education. Qatar is a small country. Qatar is not a large country. However, this initiative is an Arab initiative or a pan-Arab initiative, if I may say so. However, a couple of days ago, I actually found out that the population of the Arab region is now 500 million. Imagine, 500 million. Of all these 500 million people, do we not have 20,000 young men and women who are geniuses, who are incredibly smart, whom we can rely upon in order to help build capacities? In my opinion, this initiative is not a 5-year initiative. It is not a 10-year initiative. It is an initiative that will go on for an entire generation or even 2 generations. I remember at the beginning of the initiative, there was a gentleman who was invited to the initiative. I believe he was an English physicist. He was a Nobel laureate, and there was also a gentleman from Singapore who told us about the boom that Singapore experienced. I forgot their names, but I remember that the English scholar was an older gentleman, and he stood up and said, "You can buy technology, but you cannot buy science." So, in my opinion, if we want this Arab or Islamic Renaissance to succeed, we're going to need to be able to play the long game, if we can say that. We cannot say, for example, next year we were going to do this or that. We need to raise an entire generation, a generation throughout the Arab world, throughout the Arab region, so that we can get to a stage where we can compete globally, compete against the United States, China, India, and so on. This is what attracted me about the initiative. Because usually when there are meetings, when we take part in meetings, we often tell ourselves, I am the only Arab here. But why is it like that? I'm not distinguished. That's how I feel. We have so much potential. We have so much capacity. However, this potential is not tapped. It remains untapped and it is wasted. Yes, we talk about conflict, but I remember experiencing conflict all my life, ever since I was a child. So they should not be an obstacle. We're talking about what happens in Gaza, what's happening in Lebanon, what is happening in Syria. If, for example, we can provide temporary assistance to people who lost their jobs or lost their opportunities, yes, that's good, of course, but we need to get to the later stage, and in order to do that, we need to think long term, 30 years, 50 years. What about this coming generation, the people who are not born yet? What will become of them? Will they have to go through the same issues? Will they have to remain an insignificant part of the world's population, as is the case right now, sadly? So we should not accept that, and this is what is pushing me to persevere and to remain a thorn in the side of those who make decisions. And this is something we need to consider. This is something that we need to think about long term. And I will do what I can to help. However, right now I'm nearing the age of retirement, and I want young people to carry the torch. We will be their mentors. We are willing to help them. So what I suggest is for us to harness the potential and the capacity that we have all over the Arab world. Let us help those young men and women reach the heights that they want to reach. Let us be mentors for them and let us help them. And now in Qatar, we thankfully have an ecosystem. We have a research environment in which they can grow and flourish and become some of the best researchers in the world. Of course, this is my opinion, and this might be a very limited opinion because it's based on my knowledge. And my knowledge is limited to computer science, computing, electrical engineering. And I'm sure there are other people with other fields of expertise who may be able to assist, but this effort should be a long-term effort. This is the one factor that could ensure our long-term success. Thank you, Doctor. Of course, Arabic words might sometimes be difficult to pronounce, but your heart definitely seems to be in the right place, Doctor. We have many conflicts in the Arab world, from Gaza to Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Sudan. It's unfortunate. However, once again, we are asking the question, what is our responsibility? We carry an important message, so what is the responsibility of this message that is carried by Arab scholars in rebuilding communities after these conflicts and even during these conflicts? And we have had some experiences, some relevant experiences in Qatar. We actually told the colleagues that we have QRDI, the Qatar Research and Development Initiative, and it's an initiative to attract displaced scientists to Qatar and work with them. And actually, a lot of our colleagues from Hamad bin Khalifa University and other institutions actually submitted applications to cooperate with our brothers and sisters who are currently displaced as a result of the conflicts. So, back to my question, what is our responsibility? You addressed some of our responsibilities. However, do we have other responsibilities, particularly during and after armed conflicts? Before addressing this topic, there's something I would like to say. This is actually my first official visit to Qatar, and over the past 3 days, I actually feel the same kind of love that I felt the first time I visited the Middle East and worked in the Middle East. And I would like to congratulate you for a wonderful country under an exceptional leadership. Her Highness Sheikha Moza is not just a leader, she's a visionary. And it is for that reason that the state of Qatar is the place where this Arab Renaissance will begin. And as indicated earlier by my co-panelists, Dr. Shawki and Dr. Karim, this Renaissance is not an individual effort. It's about our collective efforts. This network has already been established, yes, but if it is activated, it will be so powerful. And we don't necessarily have to think of what's going on outside. We need to focus on the young men and women that we have here in the Arab region. Those young men and women who want to learn, who want to be productive, who want to serve their countries. We don't have to go far. We can work here. We can offer mentorship. We can build this human capital, these human capacities, because at some point we are going to retire. So what good is the knowledge we've acquired? What good is the level we've reached if we don't pass on this knowledge and this experience to somebody else who can carry the torch and continue the journey? So in my opinion, we have to focus on the youth. We have to focus on the young men and women who are currently in the Arab world. Thank you, Hind. Excellent point. Dr. Shawki, as far as you're concerned, it's not theoretical. It's application, because you moved to the Lebanese American University and you're president now. That is correct. Dr. Sakalla said that he's experienced conflicts throughout his life, and perhaps the same thing applies to me. In my first 15 years, Lebanon was a paradise when I lived there. After that, you all know what happened in 1975. So our entire lives were marked by conflict, so I cannot think about post-conflict. Let me tell you what's happening right now in Lebanon. Let me tell you what is happening at the university of which I became president on October 1st. We have students who have no homes. We have professors who have no homes. We have students who passed away. We have 2 students who were killed. We have students whose parents passed away. These are not normal times we're living in. We are not living in a country such as Qatar, where students can go to the lab, they can go to class, they can learn in safety, they can go out, walk in the street. It's a paradise. So what we're doing right now are three things. First off, we do not want to lose this current generation, so we are teaching the current generation. And I heard just now from my friend Ghassan from Gaza that they actually graduated students in Gaza. Schools are graduating children under the bombing. The same thing is happening in Lebanon. Right now, education is continuing online and it's continuing face-to-face. There are universities that no longer have classrooms. They were destroyed. So we are taking their students and we are teaching them elsewhere. Another thing we're working on are medical supplies. In Lebanon right now, we have approximately 5 million people between Lebanese citizens and refugees. Over 1 million Lebanese people have become refugees inside their country, or IDPs. They are currently living in schools, public schools. And so we have 2 mobile units, 2 ambulances, and we are dispatching those mobile units. I apologize. We're dispatching our ambulances to give them medicine and sanitation supplies. You're making us cry, doctor. No, we have to be positive because the future will be better, inshallah. How can we help? 2 of my students have returned. One of them, who was actually my first student, he went back to the Beirut Arab University. I'm sorry, to the American University in Beirut, and he became assistant dean there. Another student went to the American University of Sharjah. So if we want to accomplish this reverse brain drain, in other words, if we want our brains to return to our countries, we need to give them the same research environment that is offered by some of the best places in the world. And this is something we need to consider. There must be no sacrifice that affects their scientific or their professional ambitions. In other words, I don't want them to say, yes, we are returning so we can help, but at the same time we will be losing our reputation, for instance, in the world. So Qatar is an example. I keep going back to Qatar because Qatar can actually be the pioneer in the Arab region as far as accomplishing this ambition is concerned. So they can return to Qatar, work at one of the many research centers or at the Hamad bin Khalifa University, and be part of the same elite or this elite selection maybe of science and technology professionals in the world. I think Qatar is the only country, in my opinion, that is capable of accomplishing that. Why? It is not just because of the financial support that is available. Yes, financial support is important. However, there is an appreciation of the importance of success in this field. Regardless of whether or not we want to be better than our neighbors, for example, I genuinely felt that there was a realization here in Qatar that it is is very important for this project to be a long-term project and not just a photo op, like we say in the English language. So how can we help? What can we do to help? Like Dr. Shawqi said, we are helping. 12 universities in Gaza were leveled. And right now, we are thinking the problem in Gaza is obviously much worse compared to Lebanon, because those who weren't killed, how can you get them out of Gaza? But these are temporary solutions for the problems that are happening right now. However, we must keep looking forward. We must keep looking ahead and thinking long term. These 500 million people, how can they rise and how can they be important and significant in the world? Today, unfortunately, we are not significant in the world. Here at this seminar, we are not going to solve political issues. We are not going to find a solution to conflicts, but maybe somebody will hear our voices. We can start small. We can start small here in Qatar, and we can show the remainder of our region in the GCC, in the Middle East, in the Levant, in the MENA region. We can show everybody that we can accomplish this, that we can make this a reality. That is my ambition. My ambition is for this to happen, not for my sake, but just for me to feel like I am no lesser than my American, my Chinese, or my Indian peers. What do we call this, Iyad? There's sorrow, maybe. There's some sorrow. Yes, there is sorrow, but we are trying to focus here on sustainable solutions. Not all solutions have to be grand solutions. Individually, I am certain that we have a number of participants here who have helped a number of Arab students. How many Arab students managed to complete their PhD thesis because they were embraced by some of the professors we have here? We might believe that these solutions are simple, but they have a snowball effect. However, now I would like to take a break from my monologue, and I would like to open the floor to the audience for some questions, and then we will continue the discussion. I would like to give a few minutes to the audience members, if you have any questions to our panelists. Please introduce yourself. The mic is working. I'm Dr. Salah from Hamad bin Khalifa University, and I actually studied here. There's a policy issue we have in the Arab world, and some may say this policy is right, others might say it's wrong. If we have researchers in the Arab world who studied and succeeded in the Arab world, often there's no appreciation for the efforts that they made and the results that they delivered. However, if those same researchers were in a Western country, in Europe or in the United States, and accomplished or delivered a part of those accomplishments, it would be different. So this is part of our policy. Why do we appreciate our researchers when they study abroad, and we don't appreciate them when they study at home, regardless of their accomplishment? We often focus on the name of the university without focusing as much on the type of research. So whenever we have researchers studying abroad, they are greatly appreciated in the Arab world. So are there reasons for that policy? And if so, what are the solutions that you can propose? Can I please answer? Go ahead. Well, I think this is a matter of time. We're talking about the culture of knowledge development and exploration. Unfortunately, this culture in the Arab world does not exist in the same way that it exists abroad. But I think this will change. If we look at the people who are successful, by the way, not everything that's done abroad is good. Not everything that is accomplished abroad is perfect. For example, we work in the US. We used to work in the US, and people often think that scholars working at universities are these great men. However, oftentimes we are looked down upon by the population because they view us as the elite. However, at the country level, there is an appreciation of the importance of scientific research and so on and so forth. So this is the type of culture that should be allowed to flourish here. Appreciation of scientific research, the appreciation of education. And I believe this necessitates the contribution of decision makers at the government level. This exists in Qatar. However, I believe we need some time to show our youth that their research fields are actually appreciated by society. And we will get there. And I would like to apologize because my Arabic language has grown weaker, but I will say this: I want appreciation from society. I want society to appreciate that this is something important for us. It shouldn't just be limited to sports, art, or entertainment. We need to also appreciate accomplishments across the board. Let us please take another question. Abdullah An-Nama. This is not a question, but more of a request, quite frankly. Of course, we are sitting here with scholars and scientists, and we must not lose our way. We must not go into humanitarian issues and so on and so forth. As scholars, we need to discuss research. There are a number of issues, and people on the ground will not be able to solve them. The role of scholars is to conduct research and enlighten the way for the future. From our Islamic history, we all know Imam Malik. Imam Malik was not known for being a frequent participant in prayer. However, Imam Ash-Shafi'i, for example, who wrote Usul al-Fiqh, all of those were scholars, all of them were scientists, and therefore we would like to focus on, to stay on our compass, to stay on our bearing and focus on our bearings without losing them. So, for our panel, of course, we're not just discussing the humanitarian aspect, even though this is your field of specialty, Ms. Hind, but also the scientific aspect. For example, in the state of Qatar, we have 3 advanced research institutes, we have the universities. Maybe 20 years ago, we could not even dream of this gathering that we have here and the qualifications we have in this room. So, how can we work together in order to advance further in these scientific fields? Can I please respond to the question, Doctor, whether you're a humanitarian, you're a scientist or a researcher, at the end of the day, you are building human capacities. And you can start with those in the street, going all the way to those in universities or bus drivers and so on and so forth. If, as a society, you're not investing in your own human capacity and your own human capital, you will not be able to deliver research and you will not be able to deliver anything else. So our work starts from the bottom up. You cannot start working from the top. The Americans often tried this, and other organizations also tried this. They tried to dictate how people should live their lives. They tried to dictate how people should go about their own development, but this cannot work. There's an example that I love, actually. So wells were being dug in Afghanistan. USAID employees got to a village and the villagers told them they needed a well. So they dug the well, they went away, they came back and they found out the well had been destroyed. So they dug it again, they went away. A month later, they came back and they found out it had been destroyed. It stayed that way for about 6 months and nobody knew why this was happening to the well. After that, one of the researchers who were sent to explore the issue, she asked a young girl who was standing on the side, she asked her, "What's happening here?" So the little girl told her, the women walk together to collect water, and this is a social activity. It's part of their own development. It's part of their own culture. So when you dug this well here, you took it away from them, and so the women started destroying the well so that they can continue walking together to fill water and return. So the objective here is that we can't say that we can start with a top-to-bottom approach. The Renaissance should start with capacity building regardless of the field in which we're operating. So a focus on the capacities. Dr. Shawqi. I would also like to answer this comment. You are right, sir. As researchers, we must focus on what we know. We must focus on the areas in which we can help. The humanitarian examples that I gave, I actually referenced because we cannot have research, we cannot have development if we do not have peace, security, and safety. But going back to the question, as researchers, what we can do, as Qatar Foundation, what we can do, or as the Arab Global Scholars Initiative, what can we do? We talked about the network and the importance of the network, but we need something concrete. Maybe it could be a project in the United States, for example. How did the scientific boom start in the United States? It started after World War II with the National Science Foundation.
Audrey Bush at the time.
Back then, Audrey Bush wrote a manifesto or a manuscript of some sort titled Science, the Final Frontier. And in that manifest, he said that the government must pay or fund universities to conduct research without dictating what that research should be about. So the government should fund university research, and the results of that research will help society and will help the country. Of course, many things have changed since then, but that was the starting point. So they were thinking that colleges are the research hubs, and colleges or universities decide what to research and not the government. Of course, there are a number of user-based or user-inspired initiatives, but a lot of accomplishments were delivered by the National Science Foundation, despite the changes that occurred. However, after that, what happened is that because that space was created, the United States became capable of attracting scientists from all over the world. So they had critical mass in every field. We did not have a single person conducting research, but many individuals, and that is the network. Now, what exactly can we do? A National Science Foundation for the Arab region. Maybe we can call it the Arab Science Foundation. Now we have Qatar Foundation, and this is what you're doing. However, Qatar is a small country with a lot of resources, but if there's something that brings the entire Arab world together, if there's, for example, an Arab Science Foundation, maybe it can conduct critical reviews and things of that sort. So we can start on scale because there's the human resources issue. Like we've already said, human resources are not in a single country. In Qatar, for example, we have scientists, we have QCRI, but maybe in Egypt they have something similar that complements QCRI and the people we have here. So if we bring all of these assets together, we will be larger than the United States. We're talking 500 million, so that's larger than the United States, larger than Europe, half of China, half of India. Before this seminar, we were saying that success is a positively contagious experience. So maybe if the success that was accomplished by the Arab Initiative in attracting scientists can be replicated, it will have a great positive impact on our region. So you've said a lot about the need for clear initiatives, for concrete initiatives. Today, we have the Arab Global Scholars. It is a platform to support communities and advance scientific development. How do you view the role of the Arab Global Scholars and the sustainable steps that the platform can take? What do you propose in that sense? Maybe you've addressed this issue in a way or another, but to conclude, how do you view the next steps? Well, of course, this is a first step for us to take a look at the available potential and get started on building a network. When we first started 18 years ago, we wanted to build a database of Arab scientists and scholars all over the world. I don't know what became of that, but I believe that this new platform we have, Arab Global Scholars, can actually be a starting point for us to accomplish this objective. This is a preliminary step, and it is not the end-all, be-all. It should be a platform for us to communicate, to network, to get to know each other. I would just like to say that I may sound negative, but I am not negative. So what I'm saying is that we need to get to the next level. We need to get to the next phase. And if we want to accomplish that, we must pay attention to our new generation. We must give our upcoming generation or our coming generations a goal, a higher goal than those that may be prescribed by their expectations. We must show our young men and women that this goal is a higher goal, not just for them or for their local communities, but it is also a goal that will help raise the voices of Arab people all over the world. And once again, I would like to say that, as indicated by you, Dr. Iyad, Qatar can be the spark. Qatar can be the spark. It can be the pioneer that does something different from all other Arab countries to get them to feel jealous of Qatar and say, how did the Qataris accomplish that? We need to do the same thing. I believe this can be a good way to catapult these sorts of initiatives. So instead of us having to come back every 10 years and talk about the same projects and the same plans, maybe we can have for once a project that will accomplish its long-term objective, which is the Arab Renaissance in the field of science, technology, and so on and so forth. I apologize because I keep going on and on about this, but this is something that I think about all the time. How can we get to the same levels that were reached by the Indians, by the Chinese, with all the initiatives that we've launched? Thank you, Dr. Shawqi. Same thing. What concrete steps can we take? As indicated by my friend, Qatar can actually be the spark, and this initiative, Arab Global Scholars, can also be the spark. And as I indicated earlier, if Qatar can not just be the spark, but maybe lead the efforts to create an Arab Science Foundation, ASF, and outline specific projects. Because yes, we are thinking long-term, however, we must start with concrete steps. We must start with projects that we can see, that we can feel, so that we can show the world, and so that we can show politicians and decision makers that this is not just something we are doing because we have 50 researchers who thought that we should do this. This is something what we're doing because it is helpful in the short term. But at the same time, we must think that we are talking about generations. We are not talking about work that is done for 2 or 3 years. We are talking about generations. We were talking about the situation in Lebanon, in Syria, in Palestine. We have olive trees. I don't know if there are olive trees in the GCC, but they say that the best time to plant an olive tree is 15 years ago. The second best time to plant an olive tree is today. So if you plant it today, you will have an olive tree in 15 years. So we must start today because we have 15 or 20 years for that tree to start bearing fruit. Also, as said by my friend, India, China, Singapore, Korea, all of these countries, if you look at them, 30, 40 years ago, they were lagging behind us. However, today, South Korea is a global powerhouse in the field of technology. China, in the past 10 or 15 years, they've also become a global powerhouse. So we can use the technology that they developed. However, we have other ideas that can be implemented in the Arab world. Thank you, Doctor. Miss Hind, last but not least.
Tough spot.
Tough spot.
أنا رح أضيف شغلة عملية.
I will add something practical.
أنا كتير بآمن بهاي الفكرة يلي هي
One thing I really believe in is personalized mentorship. So mentorship that focuses on a specific major or specialty. For the Arab region, I would really love for us to focus on our youth, our young men and women. So my organization does crowdsourcing and AI for social good. We've been working for 14 years, and in 2006 we were selected as a top 10 global innovation and showcase at the United Nations. And they believed that we had the required foundation to address and accomplish sustainable development goals. We have a project which we showcase every year in the United Nations, and it is about crowdsourcing around the world for what is being done as far as the UN goals are concerned. So I commit the resources of my platform as well as my personal time to mentor anybody in the Middle East who wants to be part of this initiative. And I will end with that. Thank you. I believe we've planted the olive trees and we need to continue to water these trees. And in order to do that, I call upon you all to sign up to the Arab Global Scholars. It is a platform for collaboration, for opportunities, for mentorship, and we have some ambitious plans to expand the activities of the platform to include scientific collaboration and mentorship. And hopefully the olive tree in our next gathering will be larger. And by the way, this season is currently the olive season in the Levant. Dr. Ahmad, please. In the name of God, most compassionate, most merciful, if you allow me to stand with you. First off, I would like to thank all Arab scholars, and I would like to thank all members of the Assembly for responding to our invitation and attending this gathering. When I heard our dear panelists and their remarks, I felt that it is my duty to offer some information that might not have been communicated clearly during our gathering. The Arab Global Scholars Initiative was actually founded upon what was addressed by Dr. Karim, Dr. Ahmed, Dr. Hilal Ashwal, as well as the initial group of scholars. One of our main objectives is to build this database that you mentioned. For that reason, once the website is shown here by our colleagues, we hope that you all will visit it. Of course, the main objective here is to connect Arab scholars and scientists in order for them to discuss ideas and to put forward initiatives to us. This is a path, this is a two-way street, if I may say. We don't just want proposals and then we wait for something to happen. We also want counter proposals. If anybody has an idea, these ideas are welcome and we will do everything we can to support them. The platform or the association tried to outline a series of programs that contribute towards supporting our youth, mainly mentorship. That is why one of our most important programs is about mentorship at research institutes that are part of our organization in order for us to build a generation for the future and invest in our future. And I'm not just talking about the youth who are still students, but also our faculty members who are young. Unfortunately, we're beyond that step. We have faculty members who are still at the beginning of their journey, and so we want to make the opportunity available for them in various fields. I was talking about Dr. Majid. We need to give them the opportunities in the industrial field, for example, or the humanitarian field even. So there's also a student exchange initiative and a faculty members exchange initiative. So today, we want to serve the Arab world, and we don't just serve the Arab world by asking people to return physically. Maybe through technology, maybe through student exchange, we can help create a generation of researchers, a generation of educators. So this is the first initiative. The second important initiative which we addressed, I will not necessarily call it the Arab Science Foundation. I always learned in life to make do with what I have. Qatar established the Scientific Research Fund, and this has actually allowed the funding process to push the boundary. And hopefully, in collaboration with our colleagues at the Qatar Scientific Research Fund, we will have programs to connect Arab scholars anywhere in the world and get them to work together on projects that are important for the Arab world. The third initiative that I want to focus on actually concerns the medical sector or the health sector. Of course, we have a number of Arab innovators, a number of Arab researchers in this field, and a number of Arab medical doctors even. So the question is, how can we serve the patients, our children and other patients, be it through medical visits, be it through consultations, be it through file review, and so on and so forth. And finally, I will close with an important issue. When we talk about development, development is always linked to the economy, whether we want it or not. Development is always linked to the economy, and therefore, the final program I will be talking about is Arab entrepreneurs. Of course, Qatar Foundation established the Science and Technology Park, and the main objective is not just to attract global companies, but actually to attract Arab young innovators and provide them with the support that they need in order for them to translate their ideas into projects that will be helpful to Qatar and the Arab region. So I would like to ask you all to interact with this platform. I would like to ask you all to suggest any ideas you might have to us. We are open to ideas, we are open to suggestions, we are open to open criticism by everybody. The objective here is to give hope to the coming generation, because without the coming generation, there's no hope for the Arab world, and we will not be able to get out of the economic bottleneck. Before talking about innovations, before talking about discovery, we need entrepreneurs, we need young men and women with initiative, and hopefully we will take all of these. I'm sorry, my Arabic is failing me. Iltizamat. We are taking all these commitments, all these engagements. So don't feel too bad, Dr. Karam. Looks like I have this problem as well. So we need to take all of these commitments and deal with them in a very serious manner through mentorship and through other efforts. As you notice, we will be sharing with you the names of some students and some faculty members, and we hope that everybody will be interacting with us in a serious manner. And before the closing by Dr. Saeed, I would like to thank you all for answering our invitation and for coming. This was a major opportunity for me to learn from you. This was a major opportunity to unlock new horizons that were not too clear to us. I would like to urge you all to take this seriously. Yes, this was an initiative by Qatar Foundation and by Hamad bin Khalifa University, who shouldered the biggest burden, at least for the time being. However, this initiative can only succeed with you and through you. And the university or the foundation alone will not be able to accomplish this without our collective efforts. So I've said this and I'm very sincere. Even if you have a comment, for example, on a certain path that we might have overlooked, this will be very helpful, and we shouldn't have to wait for the upcoming gathering. We will be communicating with you through the platform, and we do not want this gathering to be an annual thing. We want to communicate with you throughout the year. We do not all have to be in a single room. This might happen once a year, yes, gathering in a single room. However, we will make sure that we have groups of scholars, scientists, and young men and women interacting throughout the year. I would like to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Dr. Saeed, I'm sorry for taking so much time. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad. Thank you, HBKU, for all the efforts. Thank you, Dr. Ahmad's team, for making all the required efforts to organize this gathering and make it a success. And I've witnessed these efforts personally over the past few days, and indeed, they were incredible efforts. Honorable Assembly, we have now reached the end of this gathering. I would like to express my utmost thanks and appreciation to all the participants and all the panelists who were with us over the past 3 days.
على جعله اجتماعا مثمرا
It is clear that everybody contributed to the success and the sustainability of this gathering, and hopefully the outcome and the recommendations will be carried by us all, and we will strive to turn them into action, and hopefully we will all take the time to contribute to serving our countries and our societies. Hopefully we will able to light a candle here or create an opportunity there for our young men and women who are looking for someone to show them the right path. As indicated by Dr. Ahmad, yes, this is an annual gathering. However, communication will continue until the next gathering that will bring us all together physically. So hopefully our communication and interaction will be continuous throughout the year. And before bidding you farewell, there will be an opportunity for a group photo. So I would like to ask all of you to stand up. We will take the picture from this side. Everybody, please stand up in your seats, please, so we can take a group photo.